Russia says its military continues to push forward along multiple sections of the front line, claiming further territorial gains. According to statements from Moscow, units belonging to the Yuga group of forces have taken control of the settlement of Syato-Pokrovskoye in the Donetsk Free. Russian officials say the advance followed what they describe as determined and coordinated battlefield actions. The Russian Defense Ministry has released new video footage showing what it claims are ongoing combat operations across eastern and southern Ukraine. Eastern and southern Ukraine. The footage features intense artillery barrages and armored strikes. Grad multiple launch rocket systems are shown striking locations described as temporary deployment areas near Huliaipol in the Zaporizhzhia region. Additional scenes show the use of heavy 2S4 Tulpan mortars. For Tulpan mortar. According to Moscow, these systems were used to target reinforced concrete fortifications positioned deep within Ukrainian defensive lines. The video also includes self-propelled artillery firing on what are said to be ammunition depots and fortified strongpoints in contested areas. In a separate segment, a T-72B3M tank crew is shown providing fire support during an assault operation in the Kharkiv region. The Defense Ministry claims the tank came under repeated FPV drone attacks as well as artillery fire. Despite this, the crew reportedly continued firing, enabling Russian assault units to capture an opposing stronghold. A crew member recounts the operation, stating that the armored group consisted of a tank and several MTLB vehicles. Their mission was to carry out diversionary maneuvers, deliberately drawing enemy attention and fire. This, according to the account, allowed assault teams to move into a nearby tree line with reduced resistance. The soldier claims the mission was completed successfully despite heavy enemy fire from artillery and multiple drones. The tank reportedly endured several FPV drone strikes, including direct hits to its protective grille. Even while withdrawing from the position, the crew says they were pursued by additional drones. According to the account, one drone was neutralized after being disrupted by electronic warfare and fell in front of the vehicle. Another drone struck the grille. Another drone struck the grille again, but failed to penetrate the armor. The tank, the soldier claims, remained operational and continued its combat task. The Russian Defense Ministry says these operations reflect broader progress across the front line as fighting continues into the winter months. In its daily operational briefing, the Russian Defense Ministry claims continued advances across several directions. In the Sumy region, Russian forces say they struck multiple Ukrainian brigades, reporting up to 265 Ukrainian casualties. Moscow also claims the destruction of artillery systems, armored vehicles, and radar equipment described as Israeli-made. In the Kupiansk direction, Russia reports additional strikes on mechanized and motorized infantry units. According to officials, the Zapad group of forces has improved its forward positions, engaging Ukrainian formations near Kupiansk and other contested locations along the front line. In Donetsk, Russian authorities claim sustained pressure around the area of Dmitriivka. Authorities claim sustained pressure around the area of Dmitriivka. They state that Ukrainian units remain encircled and that repeated attempts to break through Russian defensive lines have failed. Further south, the Vostok group of forces is reported to be advancing deeper into Ukrainian defensive positions in the Zaporizhzhia and Dnipropetrovsk regions. Moscow claims that during these operations, a US-made Paladin self-propelled artillery system was destroyed. The Dnipro group of forces is said to have carried out strikes against Ukrainian units near Kherson and Zaporizhia. According to the Defense Ministry, these attacks targeted vehicles, electronic warfare systems, and ammunition storage sites. Russia also claims to have conducted widespread air and missile strikes against airfields, ports, drone production facilities, energy infrastructure, and troop deployment areas. In addition, Moscow reports intercepting guided bombs, HIMARS rockets, and hundreds of drones. And hundreds of drones. Russian officials state that since the start of what they call their special military operation, Ukrainian forces have suffered significant losses across aircraft, armored vehicles, artillery systems, and unmanned platforms. These claims, however, cannot be independently verified. Taken together, Russia's statements and released footage appear aimed at projecting momentum, military capability, and control as the conflict continues. Meanwhile, Ukraine's leadership has struck a sharply different tone. President Volodymyr Zelensky has emphasized resilience, unity, and national endurance. As fighting continues along the front lines, Ukraine marks Christmas under the ongoing shadow of war. In a public address, Zelensky acknowledged the hardships faced by the nation, noting that many Ukrainians are unable to be with their families and that some no longer have homes to return to. He said that despite the destruction, Russia cannot destroy the core of Ukrainian identity, its unity, faith, and spirit. He added that Ukrainians across the country and abroad are marking Christmas together on a unified date, from Kiev to frontline regions. According to Zelensky, in wartime, what matters most is not celebration, but protecting one's home and standing together. As winter deepens, Russia continues to frame its military campaign as one of steady pressure and sustained operations. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, battlefield activity remains intense across a wide arc of the front, with multiple force groups reportedly engaged in coordinated strikes against Ukrainian. Officials in Moscow say that artillery, armor, aviation, and drone units are being used in combination to weaken Ukrainian defenses before further advances. The released footage and official statements emphasize long-range firepower, suggesting an effort to disrupt logistics, command posts, and fortified zones well behind the front line. The Defense Ministry claims that air and missile forces have carried out strikes against airfields, port infrastructure, drone assembly facilities, energy sites, and temporary troop deployment areas. Russia also reports the interception of guided aerial bombs, HIMARS rockets, and a large number of unmanned aerial vehicles during these operations. Moscow states that electronic warfare units are playing an increasingly important role, particularly in countering Ukrainian drone activity. Officials say these systems have disrupted enemy reconnaissance and attack drones, reducing their effectiveness on the battlefield. Russian military briefings also highlight what they describe as cumulative losses suffered by Ukrainian forces since the start of the conflict. According to Moscow, these losses span multiple categories, including aircraft, armored vehicles, artillery systems, air defense equipment, and unmanned platforms. Independent verification of these figures remains unavailable. These figures remains unavailable. Analysts note that the consistent release of combat footage serves a dual purpose. On one hand, it provides visual evidence to support official claims. On the other, it reinforces a narrative of momentum and control. At the same time, fighting conditions remain difficult on both sides. Winter weather, damaged infrastructure, and ongoing strikes have compounded the challenges faced by civilians and soldiers alike. Soldiers alike. Energy facilities and transport networks continue to be affected, further straining daily life in contested regions. Moscow presents its campaign as methodical and advancing. The broader battlefield picture remains complex. The broader battlefield up in air. Front lines shift slowly, and both sides continue to rely heavily on artillery and drones, making gains costly and incremental. As the conflict grinds on, attention is also focused on morale, both on the battlefield and at home. Russian messaging emphasizes endurance, discipline, and technological resilience, while seeking to demonstrate that its forces remain capable of sustained operations despite international pressure. This information campaign, combined with military actions, reflects an effort by Moscow to shape perceptions of the war as it enters yet another harsh winter phase. While Russia projects confidence and forward momentum, Ukraine's leadership is emphasizing survival, unity, and national resilience. President Volodymyr Zelensky has addressed the nation with a markedly different message, focusing on endurance, focusing on territorial gains. Speaking during the Christmas period, Zelensky acknowledged the immense hardship facing Ukrainians. He noted that many families are separated, with loved ones serving on the front lines, displaced by fighting, or living under constant threat of missile and drone. Drone attacks. He also recognized that countless Ukrainians no longer have homes to return to. Despite this, Zelensky said that Russia has failed to destroy the core of Ukraine's national identity. According to the president, unity, faith, and shared values remain intact even under sustained pressure. He described these elements as the foundation of Ukraine's resistance. Zelensky highlighted that Ukrainians across the country and abroad are marking Christmas together on a unified date. From Kiev to western regions like Zakarpattia, from coastal cities to frontline areas such as Kupiansk, he said the nation remains symbolically connected despite physical separation. The president emphasized that wartime has changed the meaning of celebration. He stated that decorations, traditions, and festive meals are less important now than protecting one's home and standing together with family and community. What matters most, he said, is the presence and support of those gathered around the table, wherever that table may be. As missiles and artillery continue to strike near frontline areas, Ukraine's message remains focused on perseverance rather than immediate victory. Zelensky's remarks underline a determination to endure, even as the conflict shows no sign of imminent resolution. The contrast between Moscow's battlefield-focused messaging and Kiev's emphasis on national spirit could not be clearer. One side highlights firepower and territorial claims, while the other centers its narrative on identity, unity, and survival. Hiwahamana and center tightens its grip. Both countries face mounting challenges. military operations continue, infrastructure remains under strain, and civilians bear the weight of prolonged conflict. With no clear end in sight, the war moves forward into another year defined not only by weapons and territory, but by resilience, morale, and the ability of societies on both sides to endure under pressure. Enchi. Hugh.